How do you know when it's time to reprogram yourself neuro-linguistically? Well, now would be a good time. There are many ideas about what it means to reprogram your unconscious. So one of them would be brainwashing. And that's not really a real technical term, but when you hear something like that, you think of cults, you think of even hypnosis, or sometimes people think that NLP is about brainwashing. Anyway, it's a very negative idea. But actually, I've come across people who really wanted that. They wanted to be brainwashed into being successful. And I think that's what people are really thinking of whenever they think about being or reprogramming the unconscious. But we don't want to wash your brain. We don't want to wipe your mind out and try to start all over again. Even if we could do something like that, I don't know. You already have so much good stuff that you probably don't even realize going on inside of you. You don't want to wash anything out. You don't want to wash your brain. So if you do have that idea, there's better ways of doing this. You're better off not clearing out everything that you have inside your mind. And then there's hypnosis, and a lot of people think of hypnosis as like, yeah, you go into a trance and then you take out all the bad stuff and you reprogram so that you just automatically do all the good stuff. There's some truth to that, but again, we're not robots and we don't want to treat ourselves like that, or we're not computers, and that's where the word programming does come from. So when we use the word programming or reprogramming, it invites those metaphors. And once again, there is some truth to it, but again, we're not robots and we're not computers, and so we don't want to treat ourselves that way. And one of the ways I see this played out a lot is in Tony Robbins' teaching. There's a lot of things I like about Tony. There's a lot of things that he teaches that I don't like. And one of the ones is this idea of programming in this pleasure pain. And he uses a lot of things like anchors, mental anchors, external anchors, where you sort of attach a lot of pleasure to doing the things that you need to do in order to achieve your goals. And then you also attach pain to not doing those things. Once again, that is a kind of programming, but we are far more sophisticated than that. And that will often backfire. If you think about like just raising a child or even having a pet, there is definitely something to using incentive and reward to get children or animals to do what you want them to do. But if you were to attach a lot of pain and negativity to that, they again will probably do what you want them to do, but you don't want to add pain to it. You don't want to add pain and suffering to any situation. You want to be able to thrive and work off of incentive and reward. So we don't want to do this to ourselves either. We don't want to program ourselves to attach a lot of pain to something and a lot of pleasure to something else. Then we're kind of just not, again, we're going back to that whole robot thing. We're not really being a human being making decisions in the moment. We're just sort of following a fence or a pathway that has a fence on either side that will shock you if you go off track. That's not the way to do this either. And then there's things like mantras and affirmations, and if I just repeat this stuff enough times, it'll get into my unconscious, and then suddenly I'll start believing it, and then I'll start working and becoming that. That doesn't really work either. I've tried that for myself. Some people claim it does work. And I could see that maybe saying affirmations will make you feel good in the moment when you're saying them. And perhaps the same thing with mantras. And if you like the way that feels, I'm not going to argue with that. But again, affirmations can start to bring in some other problems too, because when you say an affirmation, you say something you want to be true that isn't actually true, but you're trying to convince yourself that it is. There's always a part of you that says, no, that's not really true. And so then you can create internal conflicts about that. And it's also just trying to build maybe some confidence where you don't have the competence. And you never want to do that, because that will get you into a lot of trouble as well. And then there's fake it till you make it, which again is kind of like an attempt to reprogram your unconscious by getting yourself to believe you actually are something that you are not, or you can do something that you can't. And this brings about all the same problems that I just mentioned about affirmations. So I highly recommend that you avoid all of these things. Before we go any further, it is time for a word about the sponsor for this video, me. I'm the sponsor for this video. There's no outside commercial corporation or anything like that who is sponsoring this video. But anyway, what I would like you to do, if you're watching this video and you're enjoying this video and you're getting some value out of it, is go ahead and press that like button right down there. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified when I put new videos out. If you're getting value out of this video, you will probably find more value out of the more than 700 videos I've created for this channel, and the many more to come. So you want to make sure that you get in on that. And also, if you're new to this channel, if you go down to the description right here down below, on any of my videos, you will find something for free. And this video is no exception. I am giving something away for free in this video as well. So why would we even want to reprogram our unconscious mind? Well, the majority of who you are is actually unconscious. Think of an iceberg. You know, the iceberg, the tip, you see the tip sticking out of the water, but you know that beneath the water there it is much bigger. There's a lot more mass to that iceberg, and that is a lot how your conscious and unconscious is. Your unconscious would be what you see above the water, above the surface. Your unconscious is that mass of chunk of ice beneath the surface. That is your unconscious. You think anything from what beats your heart to your unconscious belief, unconscious thoughts that are coming through, and beliefs that you have that you're not even consciously aware of. You know, if you have repeat patterns over and over again, maybe you were conscious of them at one time, but if they repeat long enough, you start to not see them anymore. They are just sort of in there, but you're not consciously aware of them. So like I said, blinking your eyes, breathing, whatever's beating your heart, all of these things are unconscious. So your unconscious is huge, and it's extremely powerful. And when you make a change in the unconscious, first of all, you have to make it conscious. The attempt of what hypnosis tries to do is to sort of give messages and direction to the unconscious without having to go in there and make things conscious. With NLP, we actually actively want to bring things out of the unconscious, make it conscious, change it, and then allow it to go unconscious again. It's even more powerful when it is unconscious. A lot of times people will talk to me about wanting more willpower, more discipline, and I'll say, well, you already have plenty of willpower and discipline. You don't need any more. And they were like, no, I don't, because I keep quitting on my goals. And I said, that's about something else. I'll demonstrate how much willpower you actually have. And they'll say, oh, please do. And I'll say, do you brush your teeth? Well, of course. Every morning? Of course. Every evening? Of course. How long have you been doing this? Ever since I can remember. How are you able to get that kind of willpower and that kind of discipline to be so consistent with that? So here's an example of you knowing what you want: clean teeth, clean or fresh smelling breath. And you want to hold on to your teeth, right? You want to keep them as long as you can. So you're very clear about the objective that you want. You're not resistant to that. You're not going back and forth within yourself trying to negotiate. Do I really want that? You know that you want it. And the decision has already been made, and the decision has now become unconscious. You don't even think about it. It is now a routine. It is a habit. It's just something that you do. That is an example of how you have programmed your unconscious, or you made a choice, you made a decision, which then became an unconscious program. It's not something that you have to negotiate over and over again. So there are many things in your life that would be great to do that with, so that you don't have to negotiate about it. I did that with eating healthy and exercising. I made it so that it's just something that I naturally do. If you think about it, your eating habits, how were they set up to begin with? Well, you probably don't remember, but you have eating habits where you eat at around the same time every day, about as much as you do every single day, and round about the same foods. Like we don't eat as much variety as we think we do. So if you looked at all that, well, how did that happen? There was a way in which that happened. And so if you can understand how that happened, you make that conscious, then you can just plug in whatever it is that you want to make happen. So I'm trying to demystify this whole idea of programming the unconscious. You know, it makes it sound like this kind of like mystical, scary thing, but it's really not. It's something you've been doing your whole entire life. Since your unconscious is such a huge part of who you are, it's more of who you are than your actual consciousness, even though, you know, because your consciousness is conscious, you tend to identify yourself as what you are consciously aware of. But the truth is the majority of who you are is actually the unconscious part, because your unconscious is much bigger than your conscious mind. And my mentor, Steve Andreas, would say that who you are right now is only one of probably more than millions of possibilities of who you could be. And when I say that, or what he meant by that, is not that you could be all of these other possibilities, having all of these other experiences. What I'm saying here is that change nothing about what has happened in your entire life. Keep everything the same. You are one possibility. You are living out one possibility of who you could be, not changing anything that's happened to you in your entire life. I know that sounds a little extraordinary, but that is absolutely the truth. Most of us think that who we are has been sort of determined by all of the experiences we've had. And the truth is that it's not so much the content of those experiences, what we're most aware of, the content. It's not the content that determines who we are. It's how we've structured that content that determines who we are. And the structure is usually unconscious. Here's a metaphor that I think will help you understand this. As you've been watching this video so far, how conscious have you been of the editing? And how conscious have you been of each frame? The frame has been changing. The cuts have been changing, the editing has been changing, but you probably haven't been too aware of that actually happening. Unless you're a video editor, you're probably not paying attention to that at all, but that has affected your experience of watching this video and even the meaning that you make of this video. And if you think about movies you watch a movie, you're not usually thinking of the editing. And if you are thinking of the editing, that's usually because the editor did a poor job. The editor called too much attention to the actual cuts from shot to shot. Most of the time, most of the best movies that we watch, we never even think about the editing. We're caught up in the content. We're caught up in the characters. We're caught up in the story. And that's usually pretty much how your experiences, your memories, how you've structured them work as well. You pay attention to the content and you make some sort of meaning out of it, and you never pay attention to the structure. I'll take this analogy a little bit further. So I just finished editing my vlog that I shot when I was in Egypt. It'll be coming out soon. If you are into my vlogs, it'll be out soon. Actually, it might already be out by the time you watch this video. So anyway, around the time that you're watching this video, or this video has come out, my vlog has either come out right before or it's come out right after. So when I came home from Egypt, I had all of this footage. I'm not one of those people who goes into a situation when I'm shooting a vlog and thinking of like all the shots that I need and scripted it out and know the story that I'm going to do. I really don't. Some people do it that way. The way that I do it is I like to think of it as I'm living first and then the vlog comes second. I want to sort of live the experience. I don't want to be constantly thinking about camera shots and angles and all that. I want to live the experience, and my video camera is there, so I'm taking it along sort of like it's a reporter. And so I gather up all this footage, and I usually shoot way too much footage. And then I come home and then I start reviewing the footage. And so I've got all of this content. I've got just tons of it. And what I'm looking at is what's the one story that I want to tell that's based on all of the footage that I have here. You can relate this to your actual life when you think about like all of the content that you have experienced and taken in that is sitting in your mind, that's both conscious and unconscious. All of this information that you have structured and organized in what we call experiences. An experience you could think of as kind of like a scene in a movie. It has a beginning, it has an end, so therefore it has a middle. And this is just how we organize information. You have never actually experienced a beginning to your life. Yes, you were born, but you don't remember it, so it's not an experience. You have not died yet, so you have not experienced an end. You don't have that experience. So what you have been doing has just been one sort of continuous stream of consciousness, continuous stream of reality, but you have been marking out beginnings and ends, and therefore they have middles, and we call this an experience, and we have a meaning that we make of it. So you're doing the same thing that I'm doing when I'm editing my vlogs. I'm gathering up all this content. I'm saying, okay, I like this, I don't like this, I don't want to use this, I want to use that. And I'm structuring it into what we call a vlog. And there's cuts, and there's sound, and there's all these elements that go into it. But I could edit the same content in so many different ways. Every different way that I could do that would tell a completely different story. It would have a completely different meaning to it. The viewer would have a completely different experience of it. But we're talking about all the same footage. So all the same content, just how I structure that in editing completely changes the experience of it. And then there's endless possibilities to that. That is your life. Your life is all of this content, and it's structured in such a way right now that you are experiencing yourself the way that you're experiencing yourself now. What does all this mean? That means you can actually change it, just like you can change the edit on a movie or a vlog and change the experience, change the meaning of, and change the story of whatever it is that you're telling or that you're experiencing. So you might be thinking, well, how do I do this? Well, this is not as much of a how video as a why video. And the how is a lot. It's why I create the trainings that I have created and the coaching that I do to actually do the how. But what I do want you to know is how your unconscious does things. And how it does that is your unconscious is hardwired to move away from confusion and chaos. Your unconscious is hardwired to move toward clarity and whatever, you know, light there is, whatever the illumination is. Most of us, most of the time, most of us are focused on a lot of what we don't want. And so when we're focused on what we don't want, we're basically shining a light on those experiences. Now, consciously, we're doing that to avoid those things, but your unconscious doesn't see it that way. Your unconscious sees it as, well, there's the clarity, there's the light, let's move toward it. So one way that you can start reprogramming your unconscious mind is to start focusing on more and more of what it is that you want. It doesn't mean we ignore what we don't want. We want to know what we don't want so we can avoid it, or know the possible things that can go wrong, or if we've made mistakes in the past, we want to make sure we avoid them. So we're not trying to block those things out. We're not trying to hide them from ourselves. We accept them, but we want to shine the light on the things that we want. So get clear about what it is you want in your life. When you think about past memories, especially painful ones, think about, well, what else was there instead that could have happened that would have worked out well for you? Or what are some of the different things you could have done to correct that? And focus on that. And so if you're ever in those situations ever again, you will already have an idea and a vision, some clarity about what you would rather do, or what it is that you could do so that you don't repeat the same mistake. Most people are focused on the mistake, and most people will sort of beat themselves senseless, punishing themselves for a mistake that they made, and keep telling themselves, don't do this again, don't do this again. But again, when you do that, you're only shining the light on and making it very clear about what you don't want. And so your unconscious is going to take you there. Now, some people just try to get rid of it altogether. They make a mistake and they just try to hide it. Well, it doesn't go away. It will go unconscious, but when it's unconscious, it's actually more powerful and it has more control over you because you're not consciously aware of it. So again, you don't want to bury it either. What you want to do is take those painful memories or take those things you wish you hadn't done and create new options, create movies in your mind of how you would rather handle that situation, especially if you're ever in that situation again. And then the other thing you want to do is take the experiences in your life that you really enjoyed or that you value, and give them more attention, and then ask yourself, well, going forward in my life, how would I like to do more of this? Or how could I do more of this? We tend to overlook a lot of the wonderful, valuable experiences that we've had in life. And a lot of what gets our attention are the things that scare us. A lot of what gets our attention are the very negative things that we don't like and that we want to avoid, or even the people we don't like and we want to avoid. And if you think about, as a metaphor, this is a metaphor that my mentor would also use, Steve Andreas, is that your mind, your body, your neurology, that's the only home you will ever truly know. That is your only true home. You could, move from one house to the next, one home to the next, but there's only one true home that you have, and that's you. So if you walked into someone's home and you noticed that there were images of violence, there were images of cruelty, all the sufferings in life and the things that, are all the horrors of life, you'd be thinking, man, this person, they're a little strange, or at least they're a little morbid. And, when you see images like that, how do you think that affects you? And especially in your home, where this is where you're supposed to be the most comfortable, right? Where you can really be yourself and be at ease. Well, that's what a lot of us are doing in the only home that we will ever know. We often are really focused on all the things that we hate, that could harm us, that we're afraid of, that we don't like. Well, redecorate. What images would you decorate your internal home with? What about images of beauty, images of you doing the things that you want to do, you connecting with people the way that you want to connect with people, you doing all of the things that you've ever wanted to do, and then also highlighting the things that you have done already that have been amazing. And so you can select and collect your experiences in such a way, and even create experiences that haven't happened yet as visions of who you want to be going forward. You can bring all this together and reprogram your unconscious. And it will take some practice. It will take some time doing this. Maybe you could do it while you're meditating, but it's absolutely worth it. Instead of thinking about reprogramming your unconscious as like all this brainwashing stuff, you don't have to go that far. Just take what it is you want to do. What is it that you want to succeed at? What is it you want to achieve? And start really putting your attention there. When you put your attention there, you will naturally follow that. Now, if you want to take this further, like I mentioned, I do give something away for free in every one of my videos. In the description down below, you will find a link, and that link will take you to this website where you can answer some questions and get a free assessment about what it is you do want to focus on in your life. What is it you do want more fulfillment in your life? And so this will help you get started in focusing your attention in that direction, and then the journey starts from there. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified when I put new videos out. And last but not least, if you can think of a friend or a family member who would really benefit from this video, make sure you share it with them. Take care.